to recently declassified documents in the Kremlin archives by Western journalists, coupled with newly forthcoming eyewitnesses, now confirm that Yuri Gagarin, the symbol and heroic icon of the Soviet Empire, was not the first man in space. This honor belongs to Vladimir Ilyushin.
Ilyushin. Their names are on her.
It is now clear that the world-famous Soviet test pilot, Vladimir Ilyushin, was the real first man in space. Numerous accounts of his flight leaked out at the time, and the Kremlin archive documents, along with the eyewitness accounts, only now confirm the accuracy of these original stories. After several decades of propaganda, lies, and official denials, the truth about one of humanity's greatest achievements can now be told. After more than 5 years of research, the whereabouts of the actual first man in space was learned. Although now in his 70s, retired Air Force General Vladimir Ilyushin still works as one of the designers at the Sukhoi Design Bureau, a Moscow-based fighter jet manufacturer. General Ilyushin was a celebrated test pilot of over 145 aircraft, including the Sukhoi 27, the premier Russian interceptor fighter jet. In piecing together this real-life puzzle of a space mission gone wrong and the subsequent cover-up, the producer spent 2 full days in Russia with Ilyushin, where he displayed the family museum and offered a glimpse into his amazing life story. Although Ilyushin promised to reveal his story on camera, upon the producer's arrival in Russia, he chose to steadfastly maintain his secrecy. Oddly, he revealed many other facts about his life never before made public that clearly indicated his involvement in the Soviet space program. In order to explain Ilyushin's fear, it is important to understand both the dynamics of the former communist Soviet regime and the top military secrecy in the Soviet space program from its earliest beginnings. In a feat most experts thought impossible, the Soviet Union ushered in the space age on October 4th, 1957, when the satellite Sputnik, weighing in at over 100 kilograms, was secretly launched into Earth orbit. Upon the success of Sputnik, people around the world were shocked and dismayed when they realized that the Soviet payload could just as easily have been a nuclear warhead, capable of being delivered anywhere on the planet.
After Sputnik was launched, Soviet press published very modest reports of some small objects was delivered to the orbit. But government clearly was surprised by tremendous outpouring of emotions by international media. And finally they thought, look, this little toy can give in our hands a very important political and propaganda instrument.
The success of the Sputnik launch was due entirely to the brilliance and determination of the head of the Soviet space program, Sergei Korolev.
Korolev was not the genius engineer. He was not a scientist. He was a good engineer. But he was the genius manager. He could manage all these huge people. He will put them together. Without Korolev, it was impossible to do something because all these scientists will be like the ants from one side, from the one side to the another. They will now work together. And he create all the, put them together like this queen ant. They work for him. Nobody knew about Sergei Korolev and nobody met him. But I don't think the name, in my time there, I don't think the name Korolev was even known. He was always referred to as the designer, never by name. And he never appeared at any of the press conferences in my day.
The Nobel Prize Committee approached the Soviet leadership for the purpose of awarding the Nobel Prize to the designer of the Sputnik's rocket booster, along with the accompanying accolades and money that emanate from the honor. However, the Soviet government and leader Nikita Khrushchev would not permit the award to go to the individual responsible for the success, or allow him to leave the country to accept the award.
So it's have no reasonable explanation. It's even difficult not explain to Americans, but to Russians now, why nobody wanted to give the name of Korolev.
So how was work this evening, neighbor?
I need a lap dance, table 5. Don't get too close. The guy smells like asparagus pea and he's got a hook hand.
You're not a neighbor. You're a pot dealer.
I have a smidge of marijuana down in Mexico. Bring it back here by Sunday night. I will pay you $100,000.
It was way out of my league.
You don't have a choice. What the hell's that?
I bought an orca.
I make a lot of money.
You're probably gonna get searched at the border. You could wear a disguise.
Bane from Batman, something like that.
Oh, there's no drugs in here. You've nothing to worry about.
How would you like to make 10 grand?
When the Nobel Committee asked
Wow,
this
they actually
because
have
they want to
commercials
give
in
the
this.
Nobel Prize. And the Soviets told, no, we don't
Yes,
include
I ran
Nobel
back to
Prize.
get something to munch on.
It's secret. So it is part of this society, part of this society with just recovering from the Stalin hysteria. It's taking a long time.
By the late 1950s, it was clear to both the United States and the Soviet Union that the next space challenge would be to send a human into orbit. Several highly trained military jet test pilots were chosen by both nations to literally go where no man had gone before. The Soviet space program remained a highly secretive branch of the military. Test pilots became known as cosmonauts.
Космонавты становились известными только после того, как они слетали в космос. До того...
Cosmonauts became famous only after they had been in space. Before then, no one was allowed to tell anyone what they did. The rule was made so as not to attract attention to those people who were to become cosmonauts, and also to be able to cover up the truth if any accidents occurred.
In the 1960s, the Soviets were very secretive about their space program. Pictures would be condensed, things in the background would be changed for what appears to be no apparent reason. But we can tell that the Russians were trying to be secretive, that they were covering up something and not being totally truthful. We have photographs where we believe a cosmonaut in training has been airbrushed away.
In October 1960, the most tragic example of the fanatical paranoia of Soviet secrecy occurred. A huge new booster rocket appeared to malfunction at the time of launch. Instead of lifting off, it remained fixed on the launch pad. Ignoring all warnings and flagrantly overriding safety precautions, the Kremlin ordered the launch director and engineers to repair the problem immediately in order to get the rocket launched that same day.
Marshal Nedelin, who was the head of rocket strategic forces, personally sitting in the chair next to the rocket, was in preparation before the launch. He demanded that this chair should be brought next to the rocket. And it was completely against all the safety regulations. And everyone around knew that this is against the safety regulations, but everyone thought, look, if I wouldn't get placed next to the big boss, I might be fired next day from my job.
With more than 200 men inspecting the rocket, including the launch director Nedelin, a huge ball of fire suddenly erupted, instantly killing everyone nearby. No list of the people who died was ever compiled, and no one will ever know just how many people died that day.
And we think in America they cover up stuff. I mean, yes, I should do a show, which maybe I'll do on Friday. It's about the Space Shuttle Challenger. Because there was talk that they actually retrieved their bodies and put their bodies in trash cans, rubber trash cans, and drove them through the streets of Orlando back to the Kennedy Space Center. American heroes, their dead bodies put in trash cans, plastic trash cans. So before anybody wants to throw a stone at the Russians, you better take the beam out of your eye. Let's continue.
Amazingly, this historic tragedy was continually denied by the Soviets, and the tragic details of this event were not revealed by the Soviet government for almost 30 years.
Wow, look at that hole.
Other recently declassified Kremlin documents also indicate that as many as 7 cosmonauts were killed in training accidents prior to Gagarin's reported flight. Cosmonauts Ludovsky, Shiborin,